Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Be My Guest. Another great episode. But first, I just want to say thank you, whoever you pray to, because it is finally starting to get warm up here in the Northeast. We're starting to see some of the snow melt. So tides are turning. Spring is coming. Vaccines are getting rolled out. Again, this will be playing several weeks after we actually record this. So we'll be further along in that process to full recovery. Now, we don't know when we're going to get there, obviously, but I think it's fair to say we're making steps in the right directions. I'm seeing a lot of hiring going on out there right now. So I think we've probably turned this corner into the final stretch where we can maybe say there is finally coming that light at the end of the tunnel. And to kind of bring home that point, I have a great guest today, Miss LJ Crawford, the hospitality maven. Why does she call herself that? Well, we're going to let her tell you and find out. But first, of course, subscribe, like, comment on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, the podcast for the audio versions on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the places you get it. Got a new logo up there too. Very basic, very simple, but it's mine now. So check it out. I am no longer a default, as these kid gamers like to say. So without further ado, let's just bring in Miss LJ Crawford. Again, the hospitality maven. LJ, how are you today?
I'm outstanding. How are you?
Oh, it's a pleasure to speak to you. We've been going back and forth a little while. We were supposed to record this a while back. I got sick, and then things came up, and then we finally got some common time. So I'm really, really thankful for you for being my guest.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
We're looking forward to having you. So really the cool thing about this podcast, as I've talked about in other episodes, is that some of the people that I interview here I've known for a long time. Some of them I've only met because of COVID, and some I don't even know anything about. They've just kind of come to me, and we've connected through some of the hospitality family Facebook groups where we've just gone back and forth and said, hey, I want to join your show. I said, hey, great, let's find out all about you in real time. Well, that is what's happening today. So LJ and I connected through the hospitality family Facebook group, which we've talked about before. 11 episodes ago, we had Sarissa Olsen on, who is the founder of that group. So if you didn't catch that one, make sure you check that out. She's an awesome, awesome person. So LJ is someone who connected with me through that group. I have no clue about LJ's past and history up until the fact that we are doing this today. So I'm excited to learn about her at the same time all of you are learning about her. So LJ, let's just start with the obvious question. Enlighten me. Tell me about your history. What makes you the hospitality maven?
I started in hospitality in 2004 as official hospitality. And but before that, when I was growing up, my mom, she would say, any given day, she may say, you want to go swim today? It could be in the wintertime. And I'm like, sure. She said, pack a bag. And so we go to a hotel. So that carried on all the way through my entire life. And so it's surprising to me that I didn't start in hospitality earlier than I did. So 2004, I applied for a concierge position at the Chattanooga Hotel. And I worked my way up from 2004 all the way to 2016 in the same property. But I went from being a concierge to an assistant for catering. And I had an awesome boss. Her name was Lori. And then I moved on up to a planner. And then I was working all three of those positions because they couldn't find anybody to work the concierge position. And I love the concierge position. And I never wanted to go behind the door. That's what I call it, behind the door where the seats are. So, but I went back there, and then I went up to day meeting manager, EMM. And then I started being a regular salesperson. I was just doing groups and churches and everything. So with all of that being said, I ended up being platinum. I was a platinum sales manager for the year 2015. And then in April of 2016, they did some restructuring and I was released, which was cool because I just started writing a book. And from that, look, let me tell you this though. In 2004, I had met a lady who had came to see us. And I was like, what do you do? She said, I'm a task force manager. I'm like, task force, what's that? And so she said, well, I just go to different properties. They give me a room. They take care of my food and my flights. And I was like, I want to do that. Right? Yeah. So I waited, because I didn't have a lot of experience. So it took all the way to 2018 before I got to be a task force manager.
Very nice.
So because we speak things and it's a heart's desire, because I wanted to travel and I wanted to be the best that I could be, going from being unemployed to I switched industries and I became a leasing expert for apartments.
Hmm.
And so they didn't want people who were already in real estate. They wanted somebody who was in hospitality. So I started doing that. I lived in 5 states in 10 months.
Wow.
Doing leasing apartments. And so the big picture was to prepare me for being a task force manager. So then in 2018, I had my first assignment in Washington, D.C. at a Kempton property.
As a task force sales manager?
Task force.
But
Yeah.
Sales, operations?
Sales.
Sales, okay.
Always sales. And then I went to from there to, I think I went to Illinois. And my family from Illinois, they were so wonderful. It was a Wyndham property. It was phenomenal. And in 3 weeks, I was able to to produce $175,000 worth of business. 3 weeks. Can we do that for ourselves sometime? But 3 weeks.
Yeah, really. Right?
Someone had left and I had them pull her report.
Mm-hmm.
So I just on the phone, and was able to generate that for them. And so that was phenomenal. And then 2018, I was at home for a year until the very end. I went to Baltimore and I stayed there from 2019, March till of 2019 till February of 2020.
And then we know what happened after that. So
yeah, so that's why I went home. And it has been the greatest thing. But the big thing for me is being a task force, you're able to go in and create camaraderie.
Yeah.
And I really give my heart to that.
Were you task forcing for a specific company? Were you a freelancer? How were you?
PHM Management was my people. Those were my people.
Okay.
And then I had another lady that I worked for, and now forgive me, I can't remember that company, but the lady was awesome. And in August of 2019, I just needed a break from something. So she offered me, my contract was up with Baltimore. So she offered me an opportunity to go to Boston for 3 weeks. And I went there and I was bored.
Really?
Yes.
Bored with the job, just bored with the town?
The job.
Okay.
I made 300 phone calls in 2 weeks.
Wow.
It was a small company, a small hotel in Tewksbury, Massachusetts. But during that time, I have to say, I really learned a lot about being task force, and I really learned how to utilize that phone. So it was a positive for me.
Absolutely.
So they let me keep my email going at Baltimore. And so I was able to still see what was going on a little bit.
Yeah.
And I said, they need me. And so the lady, she was like, you don't want to stay? I said, no, I need to go back. If they want to have me back, I'm going to go back. So I petitioned to come back, and they let me come back.
Oh, wow. Very nice.
And I stayed with them from August till February.
Very nice. I mean, obviously, March had a lot of impact on a lot of people, but I want to kind of reset on some stuff you said there, because you're talking about your first hotel and you got in 2004, kind of at the concierge level, and worked your way up into sales and spent a long time there. And then through a restructure, for whatever reason, they decided to let you go.
Right.
And I imagine that had to be pretty painful, had to be kind of in the gut.
It really was, because, I mean, just to be honest, my director and I, we had a very harsh and toxic relationship. And so it was very difficult for me during a certain period. But then after I passed out for the last time from stress, I had an epiphany, and it was like, you need to fix this yourself. And so when I had my one-on-one, I asked him, what exactly do you want from me? And he was like, that kind of guy. but I must give him a lot of credit because after we became like this, we were so much like this. But when we became this after the conversation, he trained me the way he needed me to be trained, which he didn't do before. And so we became a force to be reckoned with. And so I didn't realize how toxicity can create such a division in a department. And that's what he and I had.
When you're saying toxicity, was it? So this is a lot to unpack there, I think.
Yeah, it is. I'm sorry.
No, that's a good thing because and this is why I love these conversations being so raw and organic, and me not knowing kind of going in, because we can really take it in unique places as the story develops. But as people through COVID are moving around and changing jobs and changing locations and changing staff leaders, and just so much change going on as employment does start to pick back up, they may get with someone who they don't connect with properly or have that toxic relationship. So I'm going to ask you kind of a 3-part question here. What was making it so toxic initially between both of you? What was, aside from that conversation, what was the thing that got you guys kind of to recognize that toxicity from both sides?
Mm-hmm.
And then what would you guys say or do to come to an agreement that, hey, this is not working for either of us? We need to turn this corner, because a lot of times that doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. So the first part was, I thought he just didn't like me. He just did not like me. And because he's he's the, what's those personality traits?
Type A personality.
He's a type A, and I'm a dolphin with some babies. So I want to know the whole story. I don't care if your cousin telling or whatever, but he wanted bullet points.
Yeah.
So that was a clash. And so I took a class that I paid for myself because I was in such misery being with him that I needed to figure out how to work with him, because I love my coworkers so much. I didn't want to leave on my own. I just wanted to be there, because I knew everything about every inch of that property. It was a beautiful property. And so when I realized that something had to change, because I was depressed. I was crying before I went to work. I had valet come get me out the car one day because I couldn't even get out the car to come to work. So this is the butterfly, and I turned into something different, and I started passing out at work. It was just, I allowed somebody, this is what I tell people, you cannot allow somebody, a person who bleeds the same color blood you do, to dictate over your life. You can't, because it leads to stress, and I went through Great Depression being there. And so the last time that I passed out, and I don't know who's religious and who's not, but I love the Lord. And I was laying in the hospital. I had to go in an ambulance. And every time I passed out twice. He was the first person to my rescue. That's crazy. Yeah. And so I'm laying there, and I looked up, and there he was. And I heard him say, well, she probably thinks she's in hell with looking up at me. But I had a out-of-body experience almost, because as I was laying there, I heard a voice say, you're going to have to fix this. And I'm like, I don't want to fix it. I'm not the authority. He is the authority. And so he said, well, no, you need to fix it, because I come to realize that he didn't train me, but I wasn't being coachable either. And then you got to put your own self on blast too, so when I said, okay, have I been coachable? Because one of my things was, if we're in a meeting and you don't make direct eye contact with me, you're not talking to me. So I can shut down. I do yoga. I can shut down and not hear anything. And that's what I was doing. So he knew his stuff. He's very personable with people. He just did not like me. Our personalities just clashed. And so after I made platinum with him, we made platinum. That's what I like to say. The company just decided to, as he said, turn a corner. And it was on a Monday. He said, I want you to hold on for a minute. HR is coming. I said, what did I do now? Because I was always felt like I was doing something wrong. And
Right.
then the dude says, well, we're doing away with your position. There's a position in Nashville. They knew I wasn't moving to Nashville because I had
Right.
kids. And so I said, okay. He said, we need to know by Wednesday whether you're going to stay or go to Nashville. So as soon as I signed the paper on that Wednesday, he came straight to my office and he said, you know, this has nothing to do with you and me. I did not make this decision. And I accepted that. You know, that they had a change of direction.
Yeah.
So you got to humble yourself. I was so mad and so angry. I had to humble myself and say, it's okay. But in that process, after I was let go, and they did right by me, I must say that. I don't want to bash him at all because some of the things that I learned from him, I took with me as task force manager, and real estate person. So I praise him for that. But I lost my house. I lost my car. I was homeless. Me and my daughter and two grandkids lived in hotels for a month. And it was a very low time for me. But then the next month, I was on the road again. I met somebody, and he told me, he said, this place, they take hospitality people, just call them. All he did was give me a phone number. And I took that phone number, and I called, and then next thing I know, I was in Atlanta for 7 days. So, and from that point on, I lived in Brunswick, Ohio. Then I went to Virginia. Then I lived in New Jersey, where I was living my best life.
Oh, we're in Jersey.
Jersey City.
Okay, I'm in Scotch Plains.
Oh my gosh, it was the greatest thing. That property.
Which one were you at, if you mind me asking?
It was the good grief. I can't remember.
Because there's a lot of, so for anybody who's not from Jersey, Jersey City is going through a very big revitalization in the downtown Jersey City area. And there's a lot of properties that are beautiful opening up there. There's a Hyatt Place. There's a couple other hotels that are down there that are just really, really nice.
Yeah.
So, and Jersey City, for those who don't know, is literally across the Hudson River from New York City. So it goes Jersey City, Hudson River, Manhattan. So you have the easiest commute to Manhattan you probably could have, probably easier from most places within New York City.
It was awesome. And this was an apartment complex. So I was leasing apartments because they were about to be sold. So this particular property, and I can't believe I can't remember the name of it right now, but we had a patio. It was a luxury apartment.
Yeah.
We had a patio.
A lot of those are going in there.
That faced the river. And you could see the Statue of Liberty and look straight over into Manhattan. It was amazing.
It must have been beautiful.
It was so beautiful. And I lived, my whole life, I've lived for other people. But when I got that job, I was able to live for me. And it created a knowing of who I really am, So that job helped me so much. And then after I left New Jersey, I went to Atlanta for 2 months. Then I moved to Baltimore for 30 days. So
moving around the country, seeing the country. But there's so much there that I think people can learn from. Going back to the original part of your story of you and your superior are butting heads like this.
Nothing and butting.
And you were able to say, yes, I'm not working well with him. He's not working with me, I should say. But what am I doing to contribute to this?
What did I do?
What am I doing to not? I mean, that is such an impactful statement to look yourself in the mirror and say, okay, he has his issues. He has his fault in this, but so do I. And a lot of times people don't see the fault in themselves.
Right.
And I think it's such a powerful and empowering and enlightful statement to say, he's going to be him, but what can I do to myself to make it better? And in your scenario, while the end result wasn't a positive one in that resort and that property, you guys not only grew with each other, learned to respect and work with each other, regardless of your personal opinions of each other, and became platinum sales leads. I mean, there's no better story of taking a toxic situation and turning it into a treasure, in my opinion, all because you asked the simple question of what can I do better, looking within yourself. And I love the fact that you say he wasn't being a good leader, but I also was not being coachable, and taking accountability, taking understanding of why you were contributing to that toxicity, and you starting the process of turning that around. I mean, it's so powerful. Anybody out there that hears this, please remember that for the rest of your life, both personally and professionally. Anytime you're finding difficulties in a relationship, again, being professional, personal, friendship, romantic, whatever it may be, yes, there's definitely other things coming towards you, but it's not just that way. You have to look at yourself, and maybe it's not you, but you have to be able to evaluate yourself honestly and openly. And LJ did that, and I commend you for that, because not many people do that. Especially, and again, I don't know what year this was. I'm assuming it's probably in maybe the early 2010s, just if I'm guessing.
It's 2016.
2016, this is happening. So we're talking about a situation where there is a huge talent gap in the hospitality industry. LJ could have easily said, I have all this experience, I have all these years put in. Every hotel is hiring and can't find people. I could just easily forget this situation. I'm going to move out, find something different, and forget about this. And she really took accountability for herself and what she felt in her heart. I mean, I'm just so, it's great to, it's awesome to hear. It warms my heart to hear that story, because sometimes I forget that myself, that, hey, I need to look at myself in the mirror at times, whether it be with my wife, my children, my bosses, whoever it may be, and say, hey, what can I do to contribute positivity to this negative situation?
Right.
It's just such a great mindset.
Can I share something? It's a quick
Please.
story.
No, please.
After we had our one-on-one where we came to an understanding, the assistant that he had, who was my dear friend, she peeks around the window, because he had a window, to make sure, because he was laughing, I was laughing, and it was at that moment that I realized how toxic our toxicity was spreading throughout the department. Ooh. And so when I came out of there, she said, y'all okay? I said, it was amazing. It was amazing. He's a human, So that Monday, we had our regular sales meeting, and he said, well, I got a surprise visit from some teachers. He said, so it's going to be about 30 of them, and I'm going to need somebody to split them with me, and I'll take half, they'll take half, and then we'll do the site tour. Yeah. So the senior sales manager, who is a dear friend of mine, she said, I'll help you. He said, no, Lisa's going to help me. The whole table went, because they knew something had to transpire for him to call me out like that. And when I tell you, we worked together on that thing. He took his 15 up while I did the bottom. We shifted. Then we had this beautiful dinner in the courtyard for them. And it was just so nice and so elegant and peaceful. And then after it was all over, he said, hey, did you get to eat? I said, I didn't. He said, come on. We sat in that courtyard and we had creme brulee and ate some snacks and had some drinks. And we actually had a full-fledged conversation. I will never forget that. He probably thinks that I think he's the worst person ever. But what he doesn't know, I honor him, because not only did he teach me how to overcome anger with somebody, but he taught me that if you don't put things in a system, it didn't happen. He used to tell me all the time, if you don't put it in Delphi, it didn't happen. And so that has catapulted me so far with other properties. Right. So when you go to a property and you're responsible for your activities, I was beating out other sales managers because I was posting everything and they didn't have time. Right. So I thank him for that. And I'm going to send him a card because I feel I need to. It's been so long, but I want to let him know that in spite of all that we went through together and all that I went through internally, he still taught me some things that were valuable.
And you grew because of that
I
relationship.
grew. I
You grew
did.
as a person. Your personality grew, and I think it's an amazing story, and I love it. And it reminds me of a quick story of mine where my first job one of my first jobs before I even got into hospitality, actually a job that was right before hospitality. I worked with somebody who was a direct colleague of mine, and just very different personality from each other. We did not get along whatsoever, but we always had that working respect. And he's someone who, to this day, I respect in the most highest regard because we didn't like each other
Right.
as people. I was never going to hang out with him. He was never going to hang out with me. But when it came to shove, we got the work done. We worked well with each other. He never caused me an issue. I never caused him an issue. And I just think there was such a professional respect there from each other, even though personally we really couldn't stand each other. So, and that helped me grow a tremendous amount and learn a tremendous lot. So there's so much to talk about here because you move forward from that. You have that great experience. Unfortunately, you are let go for whatever reason, and you're talking about now. You're seeing, unfortunately, most of your life really start to crumble, for lack of a better term, in terms of you losing your health.
Disintegrate.
Your car, you have your family, and this is all before COVID. So through COVID, a lot of people are dealing with similar situations. Now, of course, there's rent reprieves and mortgage reprieves. There's a lot of people that are dealing with that same scenario through no fault of their own, the same way it was no fault of your own. So tell me, and really tell people that are dealing with that, what was going through your mind, and how did you really find an ability to keep pushing forward that eventually drove you to this amazing job that you did find?
So you got to know and recognize a lot of us don't honor the experience that we have. We don't respect the experience the things that we've gone through and grown through. And so when you realize those things, you start to really build up your confidence. Where before I allowed somebody to take my confidence and just make me feel like I didn't know anything. Our personalities were so different. I'm such a people person and he's such a numbers person. I had to figure out how to make those things mesh together. And so the very thing that he hated about me was something that he needed. And the thing that I hated that I didn't want to deal with the numbers. He taught me how to deal with the numbers and not be emotionally tied to the numbers. So right now, through this COVID, I've been out of work for a year. Okay. So what I do to stay motivated, you got to have something and know what your purpose is. You got to have something that drives you. So I encourage people to get quiet, go to the river, go to some water, relax for a minute and figure out what is that thing that drives you. I'm a writer and a speaker. That's what drives me. I've got 4 books coming out this year by myself. And then 3 books. One book, I just had 1 book signing with a group, anthology, and then 2 other book signings coming out, book anthologies coming out. So I have to stay focused. With this right here, being on the road for a whole year, living in a hotel for a whole year by myself, and then having to come home, and then there's no school. And my daughter has 3 children, a 3-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And then I'm the one because I'm at home. But my patience is bad. And I had to really readjust myself to deal with what's going on now. But I never let go of my motivation to write, speak my truth, and make those coins some kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, again, also powerful because you make a great point. I mean, I have an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old, or 8-year-old and a 2.5-year-old at this point, and I'm out of work for basically a year as well, coming up on a year. By the time this records, assuming I don't get a job between now and then, I'll be over a year. And you're dealing with all that stress, and everybody that's having the same issue is dealing with that stress by itself, financially, professionally, motivationally.
Word.
Adding on top of homeschooling and quarantine and just all of that I'm not going to say it's the most stressful time in history because I'm sure there were plenty of more. I mean, I don't want to what's the word? I don't want to talk down about any other period in history, but right now, I don't think it's any worse for a lot of people because there's just so much going on. There's fear of catching it, fear of giving it to loved ones. It's just fear of other people who are not taking it as seriously. I mean, there's just so much negativity over the last year, and it's very, very hard. And for anybody out there that's finding it very, very hard to get through it, to stay positive, you're not alone.
You're not alone.
You know, all my guests have come on this show with great positive attitudes, great stories, but everyone has said the same thing. You are not alone. And I can't express that enough because it can feel very isolating.
Yeah. One thing about me is that I don't give in to depression, but depression is real. I don't care who you are or what you have. It's a very real thing. And so I'm an extreme extrovert. And so to have my daughter say, "Ma, you are 52 years old. You do not need to be going here. You don't need to be outside." And she was like, she's a house manager for the elderly and the disabled. So she's monitoring everything and she brings it home to me. I was losing my mind and I fell into a really bad bout of depression. I had to have something to go to sleep. I was drinking a little bit more wine than I should have. And those things are real. I'm not a fake person. I'm very, very transparent. And so my plea to people right now is to, when you notice that you are falling into those things, guard yourself because you don't want it to override who you are as a person. And I let that happen to me. If I hadn't had these kids to where I had to stay straight and do all the schoolwork, it's no telling what would have happened to me because I felt so, and I'm claustrophobic on top of that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So being in the house was killing me. Yeah. And so I got to a point to where I'm like, I'm going outside. She said, "Mama, you got to be careful." If I didn't do anything but take a drive and go to the water, we have a dam here in Chattanooga, go to the dam and I sit there and just meditate, take pictures. I love pictures of sunset. So take pictures and stuff. That's my relief. To this day, that's my relief.
Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about that in previous shows of finding that release, but also to your point, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling like you're losing yourself, please do not feel that it's a sign of weakness to seek out help.
No.
Whether it be professional help through therapy or other methods, whether it be just reaching out to a friend, reaching out to me, reaching out to LJ, I'm sure she would have no problem taking your message and having a conversation with you. You can see, she is very open and honest and very willing to talk about things she has dealt with. So if you're feeling isolated and you want to know, hey, am I not alone in this? Well, LJ, myself, many people on this show have all offered, reach out to them because the only reason that we're even doing this, I'm not getting paid for this. LJ's not getting paid for this. Nobody else I've had on the show has gotten paid for this. It's all about just trying to bring that sense of community together to say, hey, we can help each other through this because it is probably the most stressful time that most of us face in our lives as a collective group. Sure, individually it may be different, but as a collective group, it's going to be something that we probably will never see again, at least hopefully, knock on wood, we will never see again. So, LJ, tell me about the Hospitality Maven moniker. How did you come up with that? What does it mean? How are you using that to promote yourself?
So I love the Hospitality Maven name because it's like LJ, the Hospitality Maven, because I am hospitality. If my picture should be in the dictionary because I love people and I'm a servant leader. And so when we had like site visits and things of that nature, my job is to embrace them enough to where if they don't choose the building, they'll remember me. And so that has just been my thing. I just love servicing people and making them feel that when they walk through the doors or wherever I am, they're at home. You can't do that with everybody, but you can do that with some people. And one of the people told me, they said, Lisa hugs everybody that comes in to do a site visit. She paying these people to come in. No. By the time we finish our tour, we're family.
Yeah.
Does it work out all the time? No. But when it does, it's amazing. So
yeah. I mean, that's what again, we are in the business of hospitality, and as the industry has continued to develop and there's been a lot of consistency across a lot of the brands, it also can make them seem very much the same, right? So if you took the signs off of, if you took the signs and colors off of, say, the three main brands of their select service type of offering, and put someone that doesn't really travel in front of them, are they going to be able to tell the difference between say a Courtyard and a Hampton Inn and a Hilton Garden Inn,
right.
and a Holiday Inn Express? Probably not, because it's just a plain building and the rooms are very similar and it's all very similar offerings. So what makes you stand out? What makes that guest want to either book that business at your hotel from a group sales or repeat business as a group or a transient guest? It is someone like LJ, someone like Lisa, who is creating that hospitality spirit, that environment that makes them feel like at home. It's not a transactional approach. It is a true heartfelt approach. And that's what would make me want to return as a traveler. I mean, we're all consumers. Every single one of us is a consumer of some capacity. What makes you go back to your branded store, whether it be Target over Walmart, CVS over Walgreens, this movie theater over? What makes you go to that one store or that one place where you say, I will always give them my business regardless of the cost, regardless of this service issue that may arise once every so often? Think about that, because that's what the people that you're talking to are thinking the same.
That's right. One thing that I am really working on, because I feel I am all about the coworker. I'm all about the departments communicating and respecting each other. So one thing that I am working on is a book. So it's going to be an ebook, and it's called Hospitality Begins Within. If the leaders of a hospitality company would just take a moment, and the customer is not always right, okay? Just for a second, and honor the people at the front desk and honor their internal guests, the ROI will be insane, because people want to work somewhere where they're valued and appreciated.
Yeah.
And so with what I'm doing is I'm doing an online class as well to go with this, because I want leaders, I want to get in their wheelhouse a little bit, because sometimes some of the leaders, you can work 16 hours on a job, and then the next thing you know, your what's that person, general manager, will walk past and not say a word. That's disheartening.
Absolutely.
I don't like that. And so that's something, let me tell you, when I quit being a concierge, a hourly worker, I went behind the doors, they called it, with the suits. When I did that, I made a promise to myself that I would go to housekeeping. So I go to housekeeping, I talk to their director, and I would kick my heels off, take my jacket off, and I'd give somebody a break for 15 minutes. And I, from the sales department, would come and do that, because I did not want to be categorized as a suit that was just about beating them to death and expecting them to turn miracles when they have carpal tunnel, their feet hurt, and all these things. I wanted to be that person that they can say, she cares about me, And one of the time I had a luncheon, and it was Banquet's turn, because I kept me a rotation schedule. It was Banquet's turn. I went to Banquet's, and this little guy, I took my heels off and jacket, and I started emptying a table. He said, Miss Lisa, don't touch that. He said, that's dirty. I said, aren't you touching it? He said, yes, ma'am. I said, so if it's good enough for you, it's good enough for me. So the look on his face let me know that I was in the right direction. Right. And so when we had a heart event, and I had just had gastric bypass, so I couldn't drink a whole lot. And that manager, I looked down at my glass of wine, it was gone. It was replaced by a tea. And so This lady tapped me. She said, "Excuse me, ma'am." She said, "Who are you?" I said, "Oh, I'm one of the sales managers here." She said, "I feel like I'm at the president's table and you are the president," because people was coming by, they was whispering, "Are you okay? Do you need anything?" And it let me know that I'd done my job.
Yeah, made an impact.
I made an impact. So I don't ever want somebody to think that I'm way up here. Yes, I have things that you need to do, and you know what you need to do, but we are equal. I can't work without you, and you can't work without me.
Right, right. Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. I mean, especially in hotels, but really anything you do, it's all about balance, and it's really about teamwork, and it's being about being a well-oiled machine, and from the top down, from a leadership standpoint, it is about providing that environment where people can feel confident that you are there for them, right? You're not just looking overseeing them, you're truly leading them. So LJ, we're coming up on time here, but you mentioned you have about 1 million books in the process coming out soon. So give us a rundown of what you're working on, what you're really going to be talking about them, and more importantly, where can people find them if they want to learn more?
Okay, so I am not just a writer of one genre. I call myself Rare Blends Publishing by LJ Crawford because my first book I wrote while I was there and angry at that hotel, called The Master Relationship Builder, through that relationship building through the eyes of the employee. I wrote that was my first book. It's very small. And then I wrote a book called Silent Screams, which is 7 stories about my life. And I've had a very harsh life. But I turn them into fictional stories
Okay.
and short stories, but I'm the main character in each one. Then I've done a lot of anthologies, but my next book that I'm putting out is called The Dark Side of Innocence, Life After Sex Trafficking. And then I have a book that's coming out called The Adventures of Online Dating with Lolo, and that's me, Lolo. And so my last book will be the what is it? Yaya and the Three J's. So I have 3 grandchildren, all starting with J, and I'm a Yaya.
Okay.
So that's a children's book. So I'm just all over the place. Whatever God puts in my brain, that's what I'd write. And then, like I said before, I have the hospitality ebook coming out. So this year alone, my plan and my purpose is to release 7 books.
Wow.
3 anthologies, which I had a book signing for 1 already. And then the other 2 will come out. And I'm actually going to do some work with Les Brown. You heard of him?
I have not, but I'm going to look him up.
He is the motivator. And so this is one thing I want to share with everybody as a closing thing. I know we're coming up on time, but whatever it is you have in your heart to do, don't get frustrated through the process. It took me 14 years to become a task force manager. After I said it in 2004 from a lady that came to visit us, I said, I want to do that. 14 years. Don't hate the process. Yes, I lost my home. We were homeless. Lost my car. But the way things work out is the way it's supposed to work out. So as long as you keep pushing, keep yourself motivated. It even says that you have to encourage yourself. So that's what I do. I encourage myself, because when you start moving forward, everybody's not going to be for you. Your circle is going to get like this. My circle is so tight, I can kiss myself. So I just want to encourage you to just find that thing that makes you happy and puts a smile on your face. I don't care if it's art. I don't care if it's working with children, whatever it is. Find that thing and you do that thing, because life is short. COVID is no joke.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we're giving and living our best life. And so that's why I write about so many things. They said, well, you need to stay in the business genre. I said, but I'm more than that. You are more than what you give yourself credit for. People don't realize that, but they are, if they just take a minute and think about it. So that's why I write the way I do. And I'm finally, thank you, Jesus, I'm going to start Share Space in June 25th through 27th with the great Les Brown and Cheryl Wood. And that's been a thing for me since I was 23 years old. I wanted to meet and share a space with this man, Les Brown.
And
So
you're doing it, and that's just
you got to enjoy the process. I wasn't ready back then, but I'm ready.
That's amazing. Now, Leslie, wow, LJ, where can people connect with you if they want to follow how your story continues to progress?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Lisa J. Crawford in LinkedIn, and then I'm on Instagram, LJ the Writer, and www.lisajcrawford.com.
And they can get all your books there as well?
Well, I'm going to be updating it, but it's still up and going.
Okay.
So there's an email down there if you have a question or you want to be put on the list. I'm working on a newsletter. So I got a lot of things in the works. I'm so excited.
And you can see it's coming across in your face. I mean, look at that smile, everybody. Look at that smile right there. Anything better than that smile on her face right now? Especially the stories we just heard, I don't think there is. So LJ, thank you so much for joining us and being my guest today. This was an amazing conversation. Any final thoughts?
Remember who you are. Honor who you are. Love yourself. When the world feels like you feel like the world hates you, it doesn't matter what they think. Love yourself. You are gifted and born for greatness.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much, LJ, for being here today.
Thank you so much.
Wow. I mean, listen, guys, if that was not a powerful conversation, I don't know what is. I mean, we've had plenty of powerful conversations on this show so far, and LJ just came in and just continued to just bring the passion, the focus. Again, going back to this idea of she really took a time to say, hey, I'm in this toxic environment, but what am I contributing to that toxicity? What am I putting on this quote unquote fire? What kind of gas am I throwing on the fire? And you hear that was really the moment, the turning point of that entire relationship, where they go from not being able to stand each other to winning platinum sales leads of the year and to having corner cocktails and hors d'oeuvres like so many of us hospitality people have in the past. It's just a very inspiring story. So I really would recommend people connect with LJ. She put all her stuff out towards the end of the episode. So connect, follow, check out her books, because I think that we can all learn a lot from her story and her perseverance. And I'm very honored to have been able to hear her story today for the first time, as you guys are going to be hearing it for the first time when you catch this recording. Again, I had no idea of any of this. So I'm as taken aback by it as I think many of you will be. So again, check us out for next week's episode, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook. Send me some messages, continue to comment, give me feedback. I will love it all. And again, if you want to be my guest, reach out to me. Any and all are welcome. Otherwise, until next time, we will see you next week.